An increasing number of organisations in the UK are applying to become sponsor licence holders. In March 2021, there were just under 34,000 organisations listed as sponsors, but by the end of 2022, that number had actually risen to 57,000, and this number continues to increase. So Shabana, what exactly is a sponsor licence?
So a sponsor licence is a permit that is issued by the Home Office to an organisation that has satisfied the Home Office that it can comply with certain obligations and duties. And that permit permits the organisation to bring migrant workers into the UK or to employ migrant workers already here under the licence. Once the organisation has a licence, it can then issue what's known as a certificate of sponsorship to a migrant worker. And that certificate of sponsorship enables a migrant worker to apply for a work visa and to come to the UK to work for the organisation in the job that the organisation has sponsored it to work in for the duration of time of the sponsorship.
And so there are different types of sponsor licence, and what are these?
So the two main types of sponsor licenses that organisations use, there are different types as well, but the most common ones are the skilled worker licence and the Global Business Mobility Senior or Specialist Worker Licence, which was previously known as the Intra-Company Transfer Licence. So in terms of the skilled worker licence, that enables an organisation to recruit a migrant worker from overseas to come to the UK to be directly employed by the organisation in a role that is suitably skilled and meets certain salary thresholds. And the Senior or Specialist Worker Licence effectively allows the organisation to transfer employees who are employed by linked overseas group companies. So there has to be a evidence of common ownership and control between the entity in the UK and the entity overseas that is transferring the individual to the UK. And that person who must have been employed by the overseas group entity generally for at least 12 months before they transfer to the UK. But if the individual is going to be paid more than £73,900 whilst in the UK, then it doesn't matter if they've been employed for less than 12 months. But it enables that kind of intra-corporate transfer of staff for long-term or short-term assignments to the UK, and is really popular where there are group companies that are international group companies and where the need to transfer somebody to the UK arises on a temporary or longer term basis.
And why do you think more and more organisations are finding it important to actually have a sponsor licence?
Well, we all know that lots of sectors in the UK are suffering from skill shortages or are experiencing skill shortages at the moment and are struggling to recruit from the resident labour market force. And by the resident labour market force, I mean individuals who are either British or Irish citizens or already are in the UK with a permission to work. And we know that this is affecting lots of sectors, so organisations in the manufacturing sector, hospitality, construction, retail, health and social care have all been very vocal in recent times about the fact that they are struggling to recruit from the resident labour market to meet their needs. The British Chambers of Commerce issued a press release and a report back in October 2022 where they highlighted just how dire the situation was for certain industries and how much they were struggling with recruitment. And then certainly as a result of Brexit, we've seen the ending of freedom of movement for European nationals has meant that all of a sudden the pool of workers that can be recruited without needing special immigration permissions has shrunk, because European nationals can no longer just come into the UK to work without having an immigration permission to do so. So increasingly employers are finding that they are not able to recruit for roles within the UK and therefore are looking overseas to fill their recruitment needs.
And what are the benefits of having a sponsor licence?
So the key benefit of having the licence is that it gives you access to a labour market that is much wider than the labour market in the UK or people in the UK who already have a permission to work. And it allows you as an organisation to remain competitive with your competitors who might already have a licence and might already be able to recruit the skills they need from overseas. So that's a key element of it, I think, is just having access to skills, regardless of where in the world those skills might be. You then, if you have the license, you have the ability to bring people over to do the work you need them to do. The other advantage, I think, is that there is an element of loyalty from an employee that comes with being sponsored. So if an employee is sponsored to come to the UK to work for your organisation, their ability and their right to be in the UK is linked to their employment with you. Now, obviously, that's not to say that once they're in the UK, they might not go and find themselves another employer that is also willing to sponsor them. But generally speaking, I think when somebody comes to the UK as a sponsored employee, they come with the intention of remaining with that organisation for the duration of their sponsorship, which I think helps with workforce planning. If you sponsor somebody for 5 years, then there's probably more likelihood that person will be with you for the full 5 years than if it was somebody who wasn't sponsored. And I think that helps. And the other real benefit is lots of organisations that are struggling with recruitment are turning to recruitment agencies who charge hefty recruitment fees. Whereas actually, if you're able to sponsor people directly from overseas, then yes, there are the fees that come with sponsoring migrant workers, but actually when compared with hefty fees for recruitment consultants and agencies, those fees are actually probably more palatable. So there are lots of reasons why recruiting from overseas is becoming increasingly common and increasingly popular.
If you'd like any further information on the points that we've discussed, please feel free to contact myself or Shabana on the contact details that you can see on your screen, or you can find our details on the Walker Morris website.